There are moments in a nation's life when ordinary citizens rise, when fear is cast aside, and when silence is no longer an option. Today, we're in one of those moments. Today, we recognize one such moment, the Gen Z uprising, a peaceful movement born of desperation and not of violence, not with anger, but with a peaceful call for change. It was a call born out of frustration, yet guided by principle and a moral clarity rooted firmly in our Constitution 2010. Fellow Kenyans, our beleaguered youth, shocked by the elected representatives last June, took to the streets and the digital spaces, armed with a bottle of water, their phones, and our national flag. Not in chaos, but in moral revolt against greed, against corruption, and against injustice. They said enough is enough. Some of those representatives who waited for them, by the way, are here. The Deputy Minority Leader, the Honorable Robert Bui, Member for Kitui Rural, there, Bwana Mwalika, Bwana Mawadhe, our sister Jane from Naivasha, our sister from Kitui West, Mheshimiwa Nyenze, and of course other people. Those are the ones who were in Parliament. Not everybody actually took off when the youth visited Parliament on the 25th of June last year. Kenyans from across the country, I beg your pardon, when they said enough is enough, some of the leaders are here. They refused to accept Rutopreneurship as the modus operandi. Our youth rejected the shift mismanagement that cost their loved ones access to healthcare services. Kenyans from across the country rejected the housing levy that is nothing short of a slush fund, a scam of the highest order. Of course, we'll be going on to clarify that as part of our agenda. We will not, of course, demolish those houses. They belong to Kenyans. We will, however, do away with housing levy, and William Ruto's government has amassed so much out of that, that will be money enough to complete even those houses. But we'll have to do away with the housing levy. More so, Kenyans are against the betrayal of Vision 2030. In its place today is bottom-up Rutoism, and one that you hear of being lauded across town today, if it's not already ongoing in Parliament, by a man who delivers nothing but despair. Uzalendo and Zangu. On June 25th last year, a message reverberated not just across Kenya, but across Africa and the world. The creation of a moral movement, a reminder that leadership is service, not self-interest. Our youth were loud and clear. Accountability, transparency, and dignity were the bare minimum acceptable standards from those entrusted with leadership roles. Today, we are gathered here, aligned to their wishes. Leadership is integrity, courage, and sacrifice. In this spirit, we focus on a fundamental concern today that should inform the state of the nation. And it will not be those long-winded, self-congratulatory pages that are, in a nutshell, empty promises and outright lies. This afternoon, we turn the nation, indeed our region and partners' focus, to the integrity of the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission, IEBC. For many years, the IEBC has struggled to earn the trust of Kenyans. This matters deeply because in any democracy, the people must have faith that their votes count and that the institutions protecting that vote are beyond reproach. Sadly, the new commission has not only escaped this challenge, the way it was appointed, escaping the spirit of consultation and concurrence the National Dialogue Committee stood for, has left many feeling that IEBC is still not above political influence. For the sake of our country, the Commission must now roll up its sleeves and prove its independence. It must work with honesty and transparency so that every Kenyan can see that it serves the people, not the interests of the executive or any political administration. We had hoped the new commissioners would take office with a single-minded determination to restore IEB's credibility. But so far, the signs are not as reassuring as Kenyans deserve. It is time for the Commission to step up for the sake of our democracy, the sake of our country, our stability, and the faith of every voter. On the issue of voter registration, we have concerns. We are deeply concerned that the IEBC has not done enough to engage the public or provide the civic education necessary for a smooth and inclusive voter registration exercise. There are several issues we must raise. Number one, the introduction of iris scanning as a mandatory requirement was rolled out without talking to an ING or properly explaining how it works. From what we hear across the country, this new system may actually be putting people off from registering. Worse still, it has created a voter register with two different standards, some with iris data, some without, raising real questions about fairness and about consistency. Number two, limiting voter registration to constituency offices during working hours only and excluding weekends is unfair to many Kenyans. Leaving registration kits open without clear safeguards risks misuse. The Commission must explain exactly what data these kits capture and ensure strict quality controls, including independent audits once registration closes. Number five, the transfer of voters must follow the law to the letter. Every transfer should begin with a written request from the voter and only proceed after full verification of residency and compliance with all legal requirements. You see what happened before the 2020 general election? It is now public knowledge that over 2 million Kenyans were transferred all over, and mainly from Luo Nyanza at that time. And people went out to vote for Baba, and they found their names missing because you so go and vote in Changamwe or vote in Garissa. And people gave up. This time, we are warning them in advance. Finally, the IEBC should publish a full list of staff involved in voter registration together with their roles. Transparency is the foundation of trust, and without it, confidence in the process will remain weak. Kenyans deserve a registration exercise that is fair, that is inclusive, and above board. Anything less is a disservice to our democracy. Fellow Kenyans, when we raise these issues, let us be very clear. We are not guessing, and these are not hypotheticals. We are speaking about one thing: the credibility of the forthcoming November 27th by-elections and the 2027 general election, and sealing the very loopholes that have in the past been used to compromise Kenyans' voters or votes. Electioneering, fellow Kenyans, is a process and must cover the whole electoral cycle, starting from voter registration. An election does not need cheating on voting day to be stolen. It can be stolen quietly, in the shadows, during registration, where oversight is weakest. That, fellow Kenyans, is the real danger. That, friends, is why we must pay attention. And that, fellow Kenyans, is why your voice, your vigilance, your courage matters. We must, however, commend the IEBC Electoral Code of Conduct Enforcement Committee for finding both Aroko and Were responsible for inciting and allowing violence, with each fined ₦1 million payable within 48 hours of the ruling, for calling out the perpetrators of the violence in Kasipul. And we, however, note that security elements have been deployed in excessive numbers in strategic places in an attempt to intimidate voters. This must be called out and stopped forthwith. On vigilance, we have noted with utter dismay, though not surprised, the outright abuse of state resources by public servants. By public servants during this by-electioneering cycle, in clear contravention of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, Articles 81 and 232, as well as the Elections Act 2011 at sections 80 and 83, and as well as the Public Officer Ethics Act of 2003, sections 6 and 10, the Penal Code at sections 66 and 67, and the Leadership and Integrity Act of 2012. We must call out these officers, and no ill intention meant, but so that Kenyans know we have a constitution and we have to abide by the rule of law. The gentlemen I mentioned here stand called out, and I think the legal action should also follow. It's amazing that Speaker of the National Assembly, my brother Moses Wetangula, is out there campaigning. Speaker of the National Assembly. Speaker of the National Senate, of the Senate, Emerson Kingi, had occasion to campaign for him, by the way, in a by-election in Magarini. That's how he became Member of Parliament. I think that brother as well should stand called out. Cabinet Secretary for Mining, Hassan Joho, is everywhere, crisscrossing Magarini constituency. Cabinet Secretary for Public Service, Geoffrey Ruku, I think he got a bit surprised when Rigiji went to visit his mother. He's everywhere. Cabinet Secretary for Energy, Opiyo Wandayi, who, by the way, according to the ruling by the Court of Appeal, was supposed to be the majority leader in the National Assembly. I was hoping Opiyo Wandayi would take up that responsibility. But he's so busy now because his minister, Cabinet Secretary, campaigning for his successor openly. State resources. I can tell you, when we went to Bere North, and when the UDA candidate decided, along with the long convoy of state officers, followed us to a place. And by the way, I must really commend the people of Bere North. They're very peaceful, very, very peaceful. Hey, tulipitana tu kwa haraka. We were able to count up to 20 Prados harassing in a caravan, harassing the people of Bere North. And the people of Bere North have decided. Such conduct, ladies and gentlemen, erodes public trust, undermines the fairness of life. In the rogue regime's desperation to rig the forthcoming by-elections, they have directed voters to take pictures. Just imagine, take pictures of their vote at the voting booth, showing that they have indeed selected their preferred candidate, and so as to collect not less than 5,000 shillings. Yani unapiga picha hapo kwa unajificha alafu unatuma. If this is not voter bribery and intimidation, then I ask, what is it? Directing Kenyans to photograph their ballots in exchange of 2,000 shillings, 4,000, or whatever it is a brazen attack on the very soul of our democracy. It is an attempt to buy not just votes, but the conscience of our people. It undermines the secrecy of the ballot. That's absolutely key. Undermining the secrecy of the ballot. It violates the law and mocks the trust we place in our electoral system. We must call it for what it is, a desperate act of corruption by a rogue regime, fearing losing in these by-elections. We call on the IEBC to educate voters on how to use their phones within and outside the polling stations. Asking voters to take photos, recording, or asking voters who they support should not only be discouraged, it should actually be punished. Even further is the real possibility of flawed ballot papers, missing key details of candidates as we have witnessed in the past. Remember the mix-up in Kakamega gubernatorial elections and Mombasa. Remember the story of Smartmatic. Remember Oti Mofo. Do you know that the contract, because they're operating within what they're calling the framework contract, the framework contract enabling Oti Mofo or Smartmatic to carry out these by-elections, by the way, their contract ran out on the 24th, I think in April last year. So they're actually operating illegally. But we will take it as it is so that we can get over this. But even somebody went to court, you cannot have people who are not qualified to supply these election materials going ahead to do so. We ask the IEBC to ensure that correct information is verified by all candidates before the final print of the ballot papers. I happen to know that Mr. Marjan, I think that's the name, the CEO of IEBC, whom, by the way, recommended he should not be there by 2027. He is working with Ruto's political advisor, who was also a commissioner, who is based in State House, managing IEBC even as we talk. Do you know that the normal thing is a technical team was supposed to fly to Athens to verify the printing? But you know, Marijan said, no, there's no money for it, because they knew what they have done, what they had done in the run-up to 2022. We will not allow this. We will not. So verification of the final ballot papers must be undertaken. And in the process, this by-election, for example, was it deemed impossible to print these things in the country? Wenzangu, Uzalendo wenzangu, our nation stands at a crossroads, and we must demand integrity, transparency, and accountability in every institution, especially in those entrusted with safeguarding our democracy. Our youth have shown us the path, and they've reminded us that courage and moral clarity can reclaim the soul of a nation. Let us heed that call. Let us demand credible elections now and in the future. This is our moral duty. Let us honor the Constitution, uphold justice, and ensure that every Kenyan's voice is heard. This is our national calling.